But I know we were talking about on Star today, just like getting that North Star. I know since you hopped into different training programs over the past couple years, like
Yeah.
what's kind of been the biggest like needle mover for you in your
Yeah.
career?
As far as from like a sales perspective, because again, there's always like so many different ways people go about obviously slicing the cake with sales, of course. But the biggest thing I found is like because again, people always want to overcome objections and all these different things. But what I've found to be the most effective is just learning how to be better with people and overcoming their own fears, limitations, uncertainties. Because
Yeah.
that's how you drive a change in behavior. So the way I go about it now is just figuring out what their north stars. What's the tangible outcome they want in their life. What are they currently doing to get themselves out of it? So you're always going to have the current situation where they're trying to get to, and then the gap is the consequence of not getting to the desired outcome. And I find when I just gear my process around that specifically, that's what gets people to move it. Because obviously, you know, you could have somebody in a chair and they're gonna be like lazy as shit. They're not gonna get up. But if you can if you literally light a fire on the chair, like that's what's gonna force them to drive and
Yeah.
move and have that urgency. So that's how I approach my conversations as of late.
Yeah, I think what you said about like just being better with people, because it's just having people to people conversations at the end of the day. It's not
Yeah.
there's not a tactic or like a cheap little thing that you can do to like get people to close. I think it comes down to just really understanding what are these people's desires, what do they want, and then
Mm-hmm.
helping them make a change. Because that's all we're doing at the end of the day is we're helping them make a change in their life around
Yeah.
a certain area of their life. And they're scared, and people are scared to make changes. They don't want to commit yes or no. I was thinking about this over the weekend, and like
Yeah.
it's just funny because people paralyze themselves because they can't make a decision whether it's yes or no about anything in their life, and they want to kick the can down the road.
Absolutely. It's just like how I even say it with my guys, where it's like, you're here, basically think of like success, all the goals, outcomes, achievements, things, family, all this stuff. That's on the other side of the bridge. And then it's just a conversation of like, hey, like, do you want to cross this bridge or do you want to stay where you're at? Because, like, yes, you can be absolutely certain that you're going to just stick to what you're doing. And you know that it is, even though you might not want that. Or you can step across the bridge and it's scary as shit because you're like 10,000 foot up high in the air. You don't know if the bridge is going to crumble or not. But obviously, the other side of the bridge, if you make it there, should you have the balls and willingness to like follow suit on that, that's where change is really made by having a
Yeah.
drastic change in our actions that we take and
Yeah.
behaviors.
Did you notice? Because I know you've jumped into a lot of different programs and training, and you've invested a lot over the past couple of years in yourself. Like, did
Mhm.
you notice a change in the people that you got coming to you after you started to be kind of that better person, like, and you made the
Yeah,
change in your own life?
absolutely. Because again, at the end of the day, it's like fundamentally, what is sales when you break it down? It's just leadership at the end of the day. And if you're on the call and you're like expecting somebody to like do this thing, and it's the most trivial shit, right? It's like if you're not holding promises to yourself, where you're like, hey, I'm gonna go to gym today at X time, and then X time comes, you're like, nah, like I'm gonna just stay in bed. It's nice
Like,
and
you
warm
don't
in
hold
bed.
promises to yourself. Yeah.
But it's like you're breaking promises to themselves. So it's like even though it's like it's you and this person speaking, they're not communicating to you. They're picking up. Like humans are incredible in this regard. Like they can pick up the subtleties in your mannerism and the way you act. And if you're portraying this facade, how can you expect somebody to when there's especially $10,000 plus on the line or whatever it is, and you're expecting them to make this buying decision and a drastic change? If you're like, dude, what do you like? You're expecting them to make this change when you can't even like take the ownership of your own shit. And for me,
Yeah.
things didn't change for me until I started like owning up to my own shit, my own, because I have my own fears, my own insecurities, my own limitations.
We all do.
Decided,
Yeah.
when I decided to, obviously grab life by the balls and do the things that scared me in some ways, even though they're very uncomfortable, like dropping 15 grand on a sales coach on a dime like that. I mean, it's like it was scary, but I'm far better off
But
for
how
it.
can you expect other people to invest in
Yeah.
themselves if you're not investing in yourself? It's like a overweight person trying to get people to go to the gym or work out. It just doesn't make any sense. So you have to be that person. I love what you said there. I think that's so
Absolutely.
true.
Yeah, like one of my sales coaches name's Bill Wash. I mean, with him, he's all about talking about like leading from the front, And for me, I'm like, you want to bring that change, you want to be that catalyst to do that. You got to be that agent of change for these people, and because you're coming from like, like you speak with certainty, confidence, conviction. To like, hey, I am that guy. I walk the walk. I don't just talk the talk.
Yeah.
And once I started, and yes, it took me over 30 grand worth of investment into all these different programs, but for
Right.
me, nothing fundamentally changed until I decided to, work on my own shit and,
Yeah. It's
be
not a
about it.
magic pill. You have to take the tools that are given to you and make those work and make
Yeah.
those happen. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about like common misconceptions within sales, because I know over the past couple of years your sales style has definitely changed a bit. And
Oh
I
yeah.
know a lot of people, they talk about building rapport. They talk about, conquering objections. Like, let's talk about rapport for a second. I know that
Yeah.
we've talked a lot about this in our meetings, but like within rapport, like what are some things people are doing right now within rapport that just aren't working, and like some
Yeah.
misconceptions around that?
The misconception around rapport is people think it's like, oh, like, did you watch the game last night? Or how's the weather down there? And it's like, the thing is, like, in this day and age of sales, like, the skepticism at its absolute highest. And
Yep.
people will sniff right through that bullshit. And again, I used to be that guy too, when I used to think, like, oh, yeah, just, be this warm, fuzzy person at the beginning and they'll do that. But that's just not the case. Where, what I've learned over time is rapport is just basically the respect you build within the context of the conversation by asking people really good questions that gets them to think and have them come to their own conclusions. And it's just being very active, with your listening ability and actually having like a normal conversation with somebody and not just being like a robotic person on the call. And
Yeah.
just, when you just do those things intangibly itself, then that's how rapport itself is built. It's just from the context of the conversation and the respect you're both providing the conversation.
Yeah. 100%. I know a lot of people are given scripts, or
Yeah.
they're given formats or outlines. Like, what's your relationship been with scripting and stuff like that when it comes to sales?
Yeah, dude, this one took me quite a while because I literally used to like be on the Zoom and I'd have the thing right there and also I wear glasses, so sometimes you can see it. Like, it was so bad, but
Yeah.
then what I've learned over time, it's just like you gotta, frameworks always are gonna overcome scripts, because obviously, somebody might do something out of left field in the call and like, oh shit, this isn't part of the script, and then you're fumbling and mumbling around and you don't know
Yeah.
what it is. When you have more of a framework of like, here's the specific things I need within the context of this conversation, and it's all framed around like, what does this person need so I can give them the absolute most value and like help them, make the best decision for themselves. So it's more of like, what's the general piece of information I need, and it's not necessarily about the questions that we're like providing these people, but it's like, what's the answers you're looking for, and what
Yeah.
what does each part of your process, what are you looking for there. And when you have more of a framework, it just gives you a lot more behavioral flexibility, where not every call is going to be one and the same, but you're not just shooting from the hip either, because you don't want to do that, but it's just like a happy medium where this is the line I'm trying to take this person down, and
Yeah.
you might like do a little bit of this, but either way, all roads lead to this specific path down this way. So
Yeah.
frameworks have provided me a lot more flexibility in that
100%.
regard. Yeah.
And then last question around like some sales philosophy stuff, but like, what is your take on follow up and on because I know a lot of people, there's different schools of thought around it, right? It's like, let's hard close them on the call. Let's do longer follow up. Let's never follow up. Let's follow up forever. Like, what's your experience been with follow up?
Yeah, with follow up, what I've learned, it's like a whole different philosophy with it. I think people sometimes are almost scared to follow up with their people as a result of like annoying this person. But then at the end of the day, it's like, if you genuinely believe your shit is gonna help somebody better, have that betterment in their life, then it is up to you and your responsibility to get in front of that person. But obviously, yes, there's a right or wrong way to do anything in that. So like, when it comes to follow up, you never want to just like, hey, you ready to buy? You ready to buy? You ready to buy? Like, approaching it from that needy place. That's how you get blocked and you get told to f off. But
Yeah.
but the more effective way, which is like with us, it's like, I mean, somebody might be 30 days, 60 days down the line, but then I remember like, hey, like we have these thing, and then hey, here's a helpful piece of a training that one of our clients did to scale their company to X and Y and Z. Here you go, have at
Yep.
it. So I think it's just being more creative with that stuff. And And I think even at one point once, like I've had some pretty fearful people where I've literally like I've seen some like motivational TED Talk type of stuff, and I've literally like grabbed the link before I've sent it to them like, hey, dude,
Yeah.
thought about our
That's a
conversation.
great, that kind of segues into my next question too. Like, how do you deal with different types of people? Because there's advanced people and then there's more people that need to be led. And how
Yeah.
do you differentiate between the two?
Yeah, because the thing is, it's with certain individuals, like they're going to be so fear driven. Because again, it's either they're running away from some type of fear, or they're running towards some type of like pleasure or unfulfilled desire. With the person who's like barely making ends meet, like, hey, I really need this thing, like they're running away from something, or like they don't like this 9 to 5, they want to get away from it. So with them, it's more of playing more into like the future of like what is this thing going to look like, what specific changes do we have to make in your life so then we can get you out of this situation. So just framing it around, you know getting from that point A to the point B. Whereas where the people who are more established, where they're not necessarily like, they're not dying to like, they're not like struggling to pay their bills or what
Yeah.
have you. More of those people is more about like playing into their vision, and it's more of a status thing, if anything.
Mm.
Like if somebody's going from, I don't know, 50K a month to 100K a month, obviously, yes, like that person's good. Like their everyday needs are not met. Like they're good. Like if they never made a single dollar more, they'll be fine. But it's just speaking more into like the what those people hitting 100K a month is like. Hey, it's more of a, they want to be a philanthropist, or they want to play like a bigger vision that's like unfulfilled. So it's speaking
Yeah.
more to like, this desire that they haven't achieved yet, and is speaking more towards out of a place of vision, not from them running away from something.
Makes sense. Yeah. So you treat those people differently, obviously, within the sales call when
Yeah,
you're going through that. Yeah, that makes sense.
yeah,
And I
100%.
guess like how has, because I know you've been on a lot of offers, and I just want to kind of talk about your background a little bit too. But like, how do you feel like your sales philosophy has changed, or at least your conviction has changed since? Because you've enrolled so many people into Master Filmmaker that have crushed it, gotten
Yeah.
amazing results, and have just really taken off. And obviously, that's really awesome to see as someone who's enrolling them. But obviously, I know you've been on other offers, and we won't say who they were or whatever. But like, how do you feel like that experience has changed now that you can see, hey, I enrolled this person, and then they really crushed it? Like, how does that help you within your conviction and within your sales?
Yeah, because at the end of the day, it's like, again, I've been on all sorts of offers out the wazoo, any industry you could physically think of at this point. But for me, over time, it's just I don't know. For me, it's more of a case of like, we're not trying to like sell anybody per se, but it's more of like being a bit more of an active listener on the call. Whereas again, at the end of the day, you're just having a conversation with somebody, and it's just actively listening to where they're at now, where they're trying to get to, and it's like, hey, can you out of a place of, with the proper ethics in mind, does your thing actually help that person? Because like even with us, like on the flip side, yes, I know we go crazy in the channels and stuff. We're like, hey, like maybe but I've also had a handful of times where like I told somebody like, hey, like let's put this on pause. The
Yeah.
last thing you need to be doing right now is investing in a growth program. Like you need to go get a job or drive Uber or something. You need to figure your stuff out.
Yeah.
And the amount of times those people have like thanked me for not trying to like hard close them, but be an actual person and be a
Be a
human
person.
being.
Yeah.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, it's like these people sometimes live in their own shit, and people don't want to ask them the tough questions. So I think as a segue there, it's like the biggest thing is just being willing to ask the people the questions that nobody's asked them before. Like,
Yeah.
like it's like if you have a best friend of yours and they're clearly like obese, they're overweight. I mean, like the reason they got into that position is because they have a fundamentally flawed decision making pattern of how they treat their diet, their nutrition, all these different things,
Yep.
and people around them have enabled them. Versus with you, where it's like, hey, like, man, like,
I'm going to tell you what you don't want to hear.
yeah,
And you
and it's
got to
like
be
if
that high
it's
school.
your
We talk
buddy,
about this all the time. Talk about that, be that high school football coach. Like, you didn't always like them, but you
yeah,
respected them.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's like it may not be a comfortable conversation, but it's like, hey, like, listen, man, like you're this thing. Like, if you don't fundamentally change something, then like you're gonna like harm your own health.
Yeah.
That's literally why when somebody goes to the doctor, they know like they've had this specific health issue until the words come out like, hey, you are going to die if you don't do this specific thing. And until once those words they come, that's when they go, oh shit, because there's a true consequence to what they're not doing right now, and that's
Yep.
what gets people to change. So I think for me, it's just been a matter of being a bit more of a human being on these conversations, like, and be that leader that they clearly have lacked, because they got into this specific position, and it's just being willing to ask the questions that nobody has had the balls to ask that individual
Yeah.
before. And I
That's why
think
sometimes it's uncomfortable on these calls, and it's not uncomfortable in a pushy way, but it's uncomfortable in a way where they have to confront demons or things that
yeah.
they've been struggling with, and they don't want to confront that. But in order to change and become a different person, you have to confront the problems that you've been facing. And a lot of people just want to sweep it under the rug and pretend like it's not there.
Yeah,
You know?
I mean, dude, the amount of times I've had somebody who was like fearful, like almost like driven into tears because they were so uncomfortable, they were so scared on our call, and then
Yeah.
that's typically the person 3 to 6 months later, they're throwing up some stuff on the trust pilots, they're sending me a message, sending you a message saying thank you so much for like pushing me past my limits
Yeah.
when even though I didn't like you at the time, but now I respect you for it. And at the end
Yeah.
of the day, it's like I have plenty of people in my life I love. I have plenty of friends. I don't need more friends. But you will respect me and you will respect the conversation we have because we're just a mirror at the end of the day. And somebody tells me like what they're doing, and I'm gonna reflect back to them exactly what they told me, and either you're gonna make the change or you're not. So I think I've been a lot more detached in that regard, where
Love
it's
it.
like I want to help as many people as we can, but obviously we can't do this for them, all things considered. So I think that's